Hey guys! In today's video I'm going to be talking about my tattoo that I got over the summer, I guess a couple months ago, end of summer in August, right before coming off to college. I'm going to talk about three things. I'll kind of talk about first where the idea came from and like the beginning process of it, then the actual process of getting the tattoo, and then basically thirdly just my thoughts and reactions and whatever happened afterwards, I guess I could say. Let's just get right into it. Again, I will go ahead and apologize if you hear an extra sound. That is once again the fan that is going to be blowing on me to keep me cool because our room is a sauna. So to start off, basically where the idea came from. For a while now, I guess I would say for the past couple years, I've known that I've wanted to get a tattoo. I just didn't know what of, and I also didn't know if I'd be able to, because my parents, little side note, my parents are not the hippest when it comes to tattoos. They were not totally on board with the idea. They don't have any tattoos, they don't have any piercings, they've never been ones to want to do that, and that's fine. And so I remember when I first brought up the idea of oh yeah, when I'm older and getting a tattoo, my mom was like, what? And I now they're totally cool with it, they're totally fine with it, but it took, at the time, you know, when I was first mentioning that, it was definitely something that my parents were not, sorry, I'm just adjusting the fan, not the hippest on. Last October, it was actually just this past week, the 1-year anniversary. Last October, I lost my older brother. He passed away, and then from that point on, I knew that kind of then from, not that that was my immediate thought afterwards, was oh, I know what my tattoo is going to be now, but when I was starting to address the idea again of getting the tattoo and that sort of thing, I was well, what was a way that I could honor and remember him, and a way that I could do that, and kind of create an idea from that and get a tattoo that would then be permanent on my body and kind of help me represent him and to bring him along with me through life and always have him with me and blah 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 blah. So that's where that idea happened. So basically what my tattoo says, it says be weird. That was something that he always would tell me. He always taught me. He was a very eccentric human being and very out there, and just he was 100% authentic to who he was. He was so true to himself and didn't care what people thought of him, and you know, he would do things, or I'd see things, and you know, we always just throw around the word so loosely, that's weird, that's so weird, what the heck, that's so weird, and I would always just throw that around, and he would always say to me okay, then be weird. He just would, that was just what his whole being was about, was just being weird. He was just be weird, it doesn't matter. He was basically what is different, because it should be no normal that we compare to, no one's normal, everyone's different, and that's what makes us human. And so his whole mantra was basically just what can we compare people to, what can we compare normal to, how do you define what different is? Just be different, be weird, be authentic, be yourself. So that's why I was okay, I want to do be weird. And so basically the evolution of this tattoo started because I have a couple friends that got tattoos, and they told me that basically it's make sure it's something you really want. So think on it for a really long time before you get it. Some friends even say a year. If you think of a tattoo idea and then a year later you still want that tattoo, then okay, it's a good tattoo to get. It's meaningful, because I'm not one of those people that just wants tattoo random things in my body, because I do understand obviously the permanence of it. So I was if I get a tattoo, I want it to be meaningful, I want it to be purposeful, I want it to be something that actually I will carry with me throughout the rest of my life. So I had a couple friends, and they suggested the idea of writing it on yourself and kind of just testing where you like it and what looks good. So at the beginning of 2016, roughly around January, February, I started writing be weird on my wrist, because I always liked the idea of wrist tattoos, because also it's a good place, I feel because I wear a lot of jewelry usually, and watches and that sort of thing, and I feel it's a good place to conceal if need be, for jobs or blah 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 blah. So I started writing be weird on my wrist, and then I did that for like, I literally every single day, it was part of my morning routine, like getting ready for school. Was at the end I would grab a Sharpie and I would write "Be Weird," to kind of just like start getting used to the idea of like something being on my wrist and like writing being there. That the tattoo idea like developed over time. So around the spring, my cousin had actually like mentioned, we were talking about suicide awareness, how the semicolon represents suicide awareness and mental health issues and that sort of thing. And so I was like, oh, that'd be really cool to somehow get a semicolon. Like, but then I was like, do I want to do a semicolon or do I want to do this Be Weird idea? And then I was like, how can I merge the two? So then I looked at Be Weird, and there's an I in Be Weird, and I was like, what if I made the I in Be Weird a semicolon? So that's what I have, is I now have Be Weird, and I have the I in Weird is a semicolon. So it kind of works in the idea of him, Be Weird, and also the idea of like mental health awareness, suicide awareness, which also brings him in as well. So it just created a whole nother meaning. So then I had that idea. So I was like, okay, cool. So then I started writing the I as a semicolon and was writing that Sharpie. So I wanted to get the tattoo before the 1-year anniversary of his death, which was a couple weeks ago in October. And so I didn't know, and I knew I'd be leaving for college at the end of August, so I didn't know if I wanted to get it in LA here within the first couple months of school, or if I wanted to do it at home in Kansas City. Then my friend Riley, who went with me to get the tattoo, she was like, I'd come back from my vacations, my European vacations in July, and we were talking, and she was like, so I think I'm gonna go get a tattoo here soon. And I was like, what? And like this, I had not heard of this yet, like this idea yet. And she was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go get a tattoo soon. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I think I'm gonna get my tattoo soon. And she was like, we were like, let's go together. Because like I talked about the idea with my parents, like I said, I kind of like was working them into it, easing them into it. Basically my whole thing was I was going to get the tattoo after I turned 18, so therefore I could give myself my own consent. I didn't need their consent, but I still wanted to like talk to them, like have their approval of it, just because I respect my parents, and like obviously I wasn't going to be like, well, I don't need your consent, like whatever, I'm going to go get a tattoo. So I was like talking to them more, and like my mom's thing was like, well, you need to do it at a clean place, because there are places that like don't even ID kids, like give 15-year-olds tattoos and like are super not clean. So she's like, you need to do it at a clean place. And so Riley's mom had actually gotten a tattoo on her ankle before, and so she recommended to Riley the guy that did her tattoo. It was super nice, super clean. So Riley and I were like, oh my gosh, let's like start planning this. And like I went on a couple more trips, like I went to Lollapalooza and I did my Florida trip, but I was like, let's plan this, like let's get this in the works, like see if we can arrange to be with this, like meet with this guy. So I was like starting to approach closer, and that's when my sister was like, well, what font are you gonna do it in? Like what's the, like, she's like, so you're going and getting this tattoo, like it's becoming more and more official, like what font are you gonna do it in? And I was like, oh, that's a really good question, like what font? Because I had just been writing it in my handwriting. And then that's when I was like, I want to do it in his handwriting, because I think that would just tie up the whole thing, make it super duper meaningful. His expression, the I of the semicolon, and then doing it in his handwriting would just be like the cherry on the top of the ice cream sundae. Like it would be perfect. So I started looking through some of his old journals and notebooks and essays and papers and stuff like that to find the letters. I was like, maybe we can see if we can find like a B like together. Like I knew there was not going to be him written down weird anywhere. Like I was like, there's no way I'm going to find that. But I was like, maybe if I could find each of the letters to spell out Be Weird, and then the semicolon somewhere in his paper. At least if I had the letters, I could go to the tattoo artist, bring him in, show him, give him the handwriting, and then have the tattoo artist create something. I'm kind of going back and forth now, sorry. But when Riley and I were starting to plan this, so we emailed the guy that her mom recommended us, and he got back to us and was like, yes, I can do it. However, I can't do it till the 1st of January. And we were like, oh my gosh, like he was booked through the year. He was so good that he was booked through the year. So we were like, well, shoot. So then we had another friend who had recently got a tattoo, and we kind of like did some more research and stuff like that, and asked her like where she got hers. And there was this place in Kansas City called Exile. Really good place. I recommend them. There's actually 2 locations, Exile 1, well it's just Exile and Exile 2. And Riley and I actually went to Exile too, because Exile, the original Exile, was booked through the year as well. So we went to Exile too. A really good, great guy. I'm forgetting his name now. I think his name was Jonathan, I want to say. That could be completely wrong. I'll put his info, I have a little card somewhere. I'll put his info down in the description box below. I feel so bad now I'm forgetting his name. He was a great guy. Basically, he was super nice. I called him up. I asked him if me and Riley could come in for a consultation with our ideas and meet with him and then schedule a date to get the tattoos. So that's what we did. We scheduled a consultation. We went in there, and actually when I went in there, because at this point I was like talking to my parents more and more about it. My dad was like, well, let me see what I can do with Thomas's handwriting. So I gave my dad my brother's handwriting, and my dad was actually able to computer generate, I don't know how he did it, like scanned his papers and like put the words together and made the Be Weird in his handwriting with this identical, and it looked super nice. So when I went in for my consultation, I was like, here's what I want. And then Riley had her design. She got, I'll show a picture, but she got on her ribs, she got this like mountain design with sunflowers. She went in with that design. We met with the guy. He was super nice. I looked at the place, like it was super clean. Like they even have a sign on the door, like must be 18, like with ID, like all this stuff. Like it smelled sterile in there. Like it was good. They were a really good place. So I went back to my mom and I told her that. I was like, don't worry, they're super good. Then we went in the day for our tattoos, and we were both so nervous. I picked Riley up, and her younger sister actually went with us too for some moral support. I picked her up, and we were like both just like so nervous, and just like, what, like the whole way we were driving there, like, what if we regret it, like all this stuff. I was like, no, I know I'm not going to regret this. I know I'm not going to regret this. But you start feeling that like really anxious feeling. I can't deny that it's there. And we just started feeling super anxious, and I was like, no, I know I want this. But she was like, what if this is not the right thing? Like, what if this is not right? Like, we were both just like the whole way there super nervous. We go and get in there, and we have Riley's sister for moral support, and she's there for us. And we're both there for each other because we were like, okay, we're getting our first tattoos like together, so we have someone there with us to share the experience with, which is so cool because Riley's my best friend in the whole entire world. So it was like super awesome that like for the rest of my life I can sit there and remember like me and my best friend got tattoos together, like not matching best friend tattoo, not the same tattoos, but like we got tattoos together. So it was like cool. But anyway, so we went in there. We filled out the paperwork, and then he was like, okay, who's going first? And Riley was like, you're going first. But I kind of figured I was the whole way there. I knew because my tattoo is definitely smaller since I was just getting the one on my wrist, and she was getting this like big thing on her ribs. So I was like, okay, I'm going first. So I'm like super nervous and like whatever. He's like, all right, come on back. And basically you like went back in the room, and he just like cleaned off the whole wrist, like whole arm area, cleaned it off really nice. So super clean. Basically what he did was he had taken my design that I'd handed him, and he made it, I'm not entirely sure, like he also was like when you went in for the thing, he like the day of, you basically, he can like show you different designs and like sizing, so you can like choose your size. So I chose my size, and then I don't know exactly like what the print was, but he like put something down that it was Sharpied basically. Kind of was like deja vu, because when you put it on my wrist I was like, oh, TBT, when I had my Sharpie just writing this, and like now it's gonna be a permanent thing. But yeah, he basically put it down to make sure that it's the right like placing that you want. And originally he had actually put mine down and he put it like the other way, so it said Be Weird like the other way. And I was like, can we change it so I can like see it on this wrist? And he's like, sure. So he just like kind of scrubbed off this Sharpie and then like re-put it on the other way. You check, make sure that that's what you want, like that it looks good, right size, right font, right everything. And so then it's just Sharpied on your wrist, and then you lay down on the chair, and I just stuck my arm out and I held Riley's hand, like squeezed it so hard, because I feel like I have a really low pain tolerance. Like I don't do well with pain. Even after years of being a dancer and like point and foot injuries, like pain is, I must still just have a low pain tolerance, because I was squeezing her hand and like put my arm out. I was like, okay, and like you hear the buzz like of the needle start to go, and then it like goes into your skin, and it's like, nah, and then it's like, okay, that's actually not that bad. Like while I was doing it, yeah, that's the whole thing. While I was doing it, I was squeezing her hand so hard, and it just felt like what I described it as was like lots of like daggers, little daggers, like just stabbing you like repeatedly is what it felt like as you just like did the outline design. It was just like, and that's, I guess, makes sense because it's a needle that's like going around, but it like, I don't know, but I was just like, it just felt like lots of, like the only way I can describe it is lots of needles stabbing you repeatedly, like little needles stabbing you or daggers stabbing you repeatedly. And I was like squeezing your hand so hard, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was sitting there and like was doing it. And also for me it was really nice because it's like letters. I could feel each of like the letters being done. But it was super crazy because this took a minute and a half. And it was nice because since it was letters, like I could feel each letter being done. But then I kind of like lost track of it because like he was on the second E and weird. And I was like, wait, is this the second E or the first E? Because I was like, if this is the second E, then I was like, he's almost done. Like I was like, what the heck? Like this is so quick. And I was still squeezing your hand. And like I was just like, okay, like are we done? And then he was like, did the final D, and he's like, all right, finished. And it literally took a minute and a half to do. It was so quick. And I was like, okay. And I looked at it and it was like very nicely done. I mean, it was kind of like messy because the Sharpie had like kind of run and it was like starting to get bruised and it was like a wound. But it was just like, it took a minute and a half and he was like, okay, you're done. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then so like I was squeezing her hand the whole time, and then like afterwards she was like, was it really that bad? And I was like, no. Like in the moment I was like squeezing her hand, I was like, this is so awful, this is so awful. But then afterwards, like, okay, it's not the worst thing I've ever felt. And then Riley and I swapped places, and hers took about 40 minutes to do, like a big thing on her ribs, and she winced maybe like 3 times when the needle was like right on her ribs, because that's a really, but she has such a high pain tolerance. Like she's an actual like professional dancer, so it makes more sense for her to have a higher pain tolerance. But hers, she was in the chair for 40 minutes and like never really squeezed my hand, like winced maybe 3 times, but she was such a champion. We did our tattoos and we said thank you very much, and we paid him. Mine was a flat rate of $60 because it was like, this is like pretty much the smallest, like you could go smaller, but like he was like the flat rate of like the small tattoos is like 60. He's like, I have to charge you 60, and I was like, that's fine. Like I was totally like prepared to like, because some tattoo places can be up to like $300, so I was like, okay. And like that was another agreement with my parents, was like I was the one paying for the whole thing. So anyway, so we paid him and we left, and we got coffee afterwards and sat there with Riley's sister, and we were like, we just did that, like we just got tattoos. And he did bandage it up, and he told us to leave the band-aids on for at least the rest of the, for me at least the rest of the day, for Riley at least until the next day. And then basically the process afterwards is to keep it clean. You wash it with unscented soap, like unscented anything, so it's just natural, like your good old basic soap, like no Bath and Body Works stuff. You wash it 2 to 3 times a day, and yeah, I kept it covered with my bandage till the end of that day. We weren't allowed to go swimming for 2 weeks. No, obviously no tanning. Exposure to sunlight needs to be kept limited, so like not a long time out in the sun with it completely exposed. Bandage it up, or just don't go out in the sun for long periods of time. And yeah, basically just keep it clean, and then, because it is a wound, it's an actual wound. I didn't even realize that at first. I was like, this is an actual wound, like they're cutting into your skin. And then it will scab. After a couple days they'll start to scab, so it felt really crusty, and I was like, this is weird. And when I ran my thumb over it, it was like bumpy and stuff like that because it was scabbed. And then after a while the scabs fall off and the wound is healed, and that's the process of getting a tattoo. Afterthoughts, basically, reactions, whatever. I love it. I'm absolutely in love with my tattoo. It's so amazing. I can't wait. It's bad, but like, people will tell you tattoos are addicting, and you're like, oh, whatever, but they're addicting. Like, I was like a couple days after, no, I'd say a couple weeks after, I was like, okay, like, when am I getting my next one? Like, I'm ready for my next. And I think that feeling is because before you get your first tattoo, you're like super nervous about like what the pain's gonna be like, if you're gonna like whatever, your design, all that stuff. But then after you do it, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. I could get another one, like whatever. So they are addicting, because like I've already got like 2 more planned out and prepared. But I told myself I will be waiting at least, if not more, and my parents probably, if I tell them this, they'll freak out, but at least a year until I get another tattoo. So my camera died on me, but I needed to just kind of quickly wrap up this video, so I'm doing it vlog style. So basically, I know I don't want to get any big tattoos ever. I know I want to get more, but I know I never want to get like a huge like Marilyn Monroe like on my thigh or anything like that. And I always will get, if I get another tattoo or more, I will always make sure that they have a lot of meaning, and that I will like go through the same process of like reflecting on it, making sure it's what I want, developing a really good idea, writing it on my body with Sharpie to make sure it's like where I want it, what I want, like that sort of thing. Like I'll never just get a tattoo just like for the heck of it and like anything that's like super random. Like I just, because I understand like the permanence of it, and like when people ask, like I want to be able, like I love sharing what this tattoo is about and like its meaning and stuff like that. So yeah, so that was basically just like, I'm in love with it. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to get more. It was a great experience. I love sharing it with my best friend in the whole wide world. It was such a cool thing to do. Did it right before college this past couple weeks on his 1-year anniversary. It was nice to like have it and like look at it and make, like, it's always a way for me to like carry him with me and have him with me through the rest of my life and like my remembrance of him, and it's just amazing, and I absolutely am in love with it. And yeah, so that was my tattoo experience, my tattoo process. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and go down and subscribe and leave more comments and more questions, anything. Give me some feedback. I'd love to hear from you guys. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.